Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you can see that a couple of things. One, I'm not in my normal recording area. I'm still in my temporary office, so please be patient with that. I've still got another month and a half, I guess, of being here. Number two, yes, I'm still trying to grow a beard. We'll see how this goes. I've promised myself at least 2 more weeks to see if it will fill in and what to do with it after that. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments below. And 3, we're still in our deep dive into the Lenormand system, right? I'm in the middle of my year-long deep dive into the Lenormand system, the system created by a German card company, originally titled, translated into English, The Game of Hope, which when they moved it over to France, they decided to add the name of Lenormand to try to increase sales, and it apparently worked very well because now there are Lenormand cards all over the world. Yes, even here in South Korea, they sell Lenormand decks online. Just saying. So it's a very popular system, and I'm learning a lot by diving into this, and I hope you're enjoying watching me stumble through this year of exploration with the Lenormand. It really is interesting. And friends, you know that I have, I have reorganized the process of how I record these videos, yes? So, I have a spread already laid out. And before I get to the spread, let me just give you my thanks, yes? Thanks for being here. Thanks for hitting the thumbs up button. And thanks for subscribing to the channel. All of those things that you do help other people find us and join us here in this community. And so thank you for doing those things. And also thank you for commenting below. Yes, all of those things. They enrich all of us. So thank you. And in case you are interested in getting a private reading from me, my online shop will have a QR code and the web address at the end of this video. If you want to go to the website, check it out, see what I have on offer. I've got a variety of spreads that you can choose from. Choose for yourself, choose for a friend, choose for a loved one, choose for a gift. It's all available. So, friends, thank you for all of that. Now, what are we going to do? In just a moment, I am going to show you the spread. And then we will talk about the cards briefly. And then I will show you the spread again, and then we'll start reading the cards. Okay, friends? So, are you all ready? I hope you are, because we're going to get going right now. Here's the spread. So you see, I am still using the deck by Robert M. Place and our dearly transitioned Rachel Pollack. It's called the Burning Serpent Oracle. Now, unfortunately, the deck is out of print. And I'm not using this deck because I want to tease you or I want to make you feel crazy because you can't get a hold of it. I'm using the deck because I've wanted to use the deck for this deep dive. And the cards are fairly large. And so I wanted to use this deck before we get into the larger spreads, before we get into the 9 card and then the 13 card spreads, right? So we're about to transition into those larger spreads, so I wanted to get this deck used. And so I will, yes, it is out of print, but I will have a link to Robert M. Place's page in the description box below. Why? Because if you go there, you will notice that right under the announcement that the deck is out of print, there is an email address. Why is there an email address? I don't know. But maybe, just maybe, if enough people send emails saying, oh, we would really love to get a hold of this deck. Would you consider possibly finding a way to reprint it? Maybe we could get this deck pre-printed, because it is a gorgeous deck. It's a phenomenal deck. The guidebook that goes with it is wonderful as well. Yeah. Do I think it's a wonderful guidebook for a first-time user of Lenormand? I don't think so. But once you've gotten your feet in the Lenormand system, this is a wonderful way to expand the way we read, and it really does help. It really does help. But I would say it's a step between, for example, the Cute Lenormand, which is a great introduction, and then Caitlin Matthews' book on Lenormand, which is intense. This is a wonderful mid-step, I think. Yeah, to get you a little bit broader in history and tradition and other ways of looking at the cards before you get into this huge tome of brilliance by Caitlin Matthews. Just my thoughts. Okay, so you just saw the spread. The spread is a 7-card spread that I and other people call the airstrip spread. The airstrip spread. You know how an airport has an airstrip where the planes come in and land and they taxi to the gate, right? If you're lucky. This spread for me is a spread that helps us find out how we get from one place to another. Now, from the first card to the last card. And I've already mentioned this, but one common way to use this spread is to intentionally go through the deck, not shuffle, but look at the images and choose a place where you want to start, a card to represent that one, which would be card number 1. And then you would choose a place you want to end. What is your goal? What is your hope? Now, a card representing that would be card 7. And then you shuffle the deck and you pull the cards 2 through 6 randomly from the deck, and you find out how you get from point A to point B. Now, I did not do that. Yeah, every week I do this. I ask the question, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? And so I shuffled the deck and I pulled cards 1 through 7 randomly from the deck. And so that's what you just saw. And so that's what we're going to read. Now, we're going to read this spread in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to show you the spread once more, just so you can get a refresher. It's not a refresher, what? So that the image is refreshed in your mind. And then we will read the spread one way. And then I'll show you the cards again, and we're going to read this spread in a different way. Okay? Are you all ready? Friends, here we go. Here's this week's spread. Friends, you just saw from left to right, we had the fish, the tree, the cross, the mice. Yeah, I know, those two together, not great, huh? The whip, not great again. And then the letter and man, the man, right? Now, the cards are slightly renamed in this deck, but they're basically the same Lenormand cards, right? Instead of the fish, it's the jumping fish. Yeah? Instead of the tree, it's the flaming tree. Instead of the cross, it's the rusted cross, right? Instead of the whip, we have the cat o' nine tails. But we are really focusing on the primal images that are in these cards, if that makes sense. Yes? So, as you know, I like to get an overall sense of where the spread is headed. Is it a more positive spread? Is it a more negative spread? On first glance, we get the feeling that this is a fairly negative spread, right? Just because of the cards there, the cross, the mice, and the whip in the center. We also get the sense that we've got a lot of now it's harder in this deck. In this deck, we don't have the full playing card insert. We've got an indication of the playing card in the upper right-hand corner. No, in the upper left-hand corner. Yeah? And it's just the number and the letter. And there is color indication, but honestly, with the intense color of these cards, it's not easy for me to see clearly, quickly, which are red cards and which are black cards. Yeah, which are the red cards, the hearts and the diamonds, and which are the spades and the clubs, right? But what I see here is we have one diamond, one heart, and, okay, two hearts. Two hearts and one diamond. Two hearts are very positive. One diamond is slightly positive. But then we've got two clubs and, no, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3 clubs and one spade. For me, the clubs are the most negative, and the spade is the less negative. But still, we've got 4 negative and 3 positive, so that we got that just by playing card inserts, right? Now, when we go to positivity, negativity, the fish is positive neutral for me. Sorry, the fish is over here, positive neutral. The tree is positive neutral, so they're both okay. But then the cross is full-on negative. Yeah? The mice are full-on negative. The whip is negative neutral, which what? It balances out, or it wipes out one of the positive neutral cards. And then the letter is neutral and the man is neutral. So those are uninfluential. So we have one positive negative, one positive neutral, and then 2 negatives, which overwhelm that one positive neutral. So this is a fairly negative spread. Not entirely, but that's where we're leaning. We've got a bit of a negative cautionary spread before us. But it starts off with something really positive, right? It starts off with the fish. I love this card with the fish in this deck, because we see the fish is holding a coin, which really does remind us strongly some of the qualities of the fish. And what are fish? What are fish for the people at the time of the creation of this deck? Yeah, fish are a sort, and again, where is this created? This is created in Germany, in northern central Europe, not Asia, Europe. So fish are a source of income, but maybe not as much of a source of income as they would be perhaps in the farther the much northern, more northern, yes, the more northern reaches of Europe. For example, the Netherlands or Denmark, or those countries where they eat a lot of herring, right? When we think of Germany, we don't generally think of fish. When I think of France, I don't really think of fish very much either. Think of it for the Mediterranean, but not much when we think of France or Germany, right? But still, the fish, we think of it as a source of free and flowing income. All you have to do is go out on your boat, drop your net, pull it in, and you've got money. Or something that will be a resource or can be exchanged for money, right? So the fish, it is the card for money, for resources, for abundance. There's an abundance of fish in the ocean, right? Still, we can think of that. It's getting harder to think of that in modern times, but still, we can think of it as an abundance, right? The fish are flexible, right? They swim around and through, and they flow. There's a flow here. They flow in water, and water is an eternal symbol for the unconscious, for for the soul even, or for our emotions. In Tarot, the suit of cups is the suit for emotions and soul, because the cup holds water or wine. So yeah, we've got those things here. It could be a businessman, an entrepreneur, an employer, somebody with influence, usually male, in a male body. But I don't think that's what we're looking at here. I think we're looking at our money, our resources, our abundance. I think we're looking at, it could be male potency. Think of the fish as sperm flowing in through the womb of the ocean. Yeah, but I think really in this spread, we're focusing on the money, influence, and resources portion of this card, which is very strongly emphasized, or we are very powerfully reminded of, with that coin being held by the fin of the fish, which is kind of cool. And it's a beautiful card. So that's where we're beginning. We begin with our abundance, our feeling of security, of that we have plenty of resources and that those resources flow into as they flow out of our lives. And that's the most healthy way for our resources to be, right? We don't want to have stagnant resources that will think 4 of coins or 4 of pentacles in the Smith-Waite deck. Yeah, where that guy looks like he's greedy Scrooge-ish, where we hoard our resources and we don't let them go. Mine, my precious, right? That's not a healthy personal economy. A healthy personal economy is an ecosphere of flow and creation as well as dissolution. Right? It's a living cyclical ecosystem of abundance. And this card very strongly represents that for us, I believe. It's a lovely card. I love the colors. I love that the semi Japanese style water down here. And just a side note, I might be in the next lunar cycle pulling out my other Lenormand deck by Robert M. Place, which is Japanese. It is based on Japanese art style. So just to get your taste buds wet, there is that coming. But anyway, so we've got this card. Yes, we've got this card. And why do I keep doing this? I don't know. It's not helpful. The next card is the tree. The tree. It's called the Flaming Tree in this deck. And it kind of is here to remind us of the tree of both life, I think, and the tree of knowledge. We also see seasons in this card. We see fruit on one side, which reminds us of perhaps summer, autumn. We see flowers on the other side, which reminds us of spring, summer, right? We got the idea of cycles of life, even perhaps. So what is a tree? A tree. Now the guidebook for this deck reminds us that the tree can also be, and I'm going there first because I don't want to forget it. The tree can also be a very ancient symbol of large power. Think of the world tree in Celtic traditions, where there is a world tree that connects all of the worlds, right? The tree. Odin, one of the gods, hangs himself on a tree to sacrifice himself, and in return we get the runes. Yeah, mythologically, trees are very important. The tree of life, the tree of also the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. And it's interesting, in the guidebook, Rachel Pollack pulls out those cards, pulls out the garden card, the tree card, yeah, and the serpent card, the burning serpent card, which we don't have in this spread. No, we don't. The burning serpent card to remind us of the serpent in Adam and Eve, in the paradise story, and then the man and woman figure, and lays out the cards to show us the story of the Garden of Eden and Genesis of the Torah. Here in the Lenormand decks. It's all very interesting. So what are trees? Trees are life. They're a source of food. It's another source of food on land. Fruit trees, olive trees, very traditional harvesting, crops to harvest for the ancient humans. Yeah, olives, almonds, fruit, of course. All of these things, it's a source of food. It's a source of life. It's a reminder that our lives have roots in the earth because trees have roots as well as leaves, and it reminds us of 3 levels of life. Yeah, we have the obvious trunk, which is maybe the earth, our earthly plane. We have the roots which go down into the underworld, and we have the leaves that go up into the sky and the celestial world, right? So a tree reminds us of 3 levels of being in the world. So we have ideas of life, we have roots, our family roots, our traditions are here. Our ancestry. It could be a deep-rooted issue that we're talking about. Most often it's associated with health, a healthy tree, and some people associate it with ill health, which is why it's not a fully positive card. It's sometimes a negative card for some people. Not for me, but I know some people read the tree as a negative card. It's the outdoors, it's the environment. It's body, mind, and spirit, maybe, yeah. It's our well-being. The trees provide oxygen for us. They provide health. That's why I don't see the tree as ill health. I see the tree as actual health, unless there's something interfering with the tree around it in the spread. This tree itself would be well-being and good health for me, because trees are what give us health. It could also be something that starts small and grows over a long period of time. Like a tree will start from an acorn, an oak tree, start from an acorn, very small, but grow over a long period of time to something large and powerful. So this with the fish card, what do we get? We get the idea of our abundance being growing, being powerful, being healthy, vibrant. Yes, giving us well-being, our abundance, our feeling of abundance, and our recognition of the abundance in our lives and our resources and the money that we have. Okay, so you're saying, I don't have as much money as Jeff Bezos, for example. I just noticed the inauguration on YouTube. And yeah, Jeff Bezos is there and Elon Musk is there. The three wealthiest men, I think, on the planet are there at the inauguration. And we might be thinking at this time that I don't have as much money as them. Maybe you think you don't have as much money as I do. Or maybe I don't have as much money as you do. It doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. This isn't a comparison game. The money that I have, the money that you have, the money that anyone has, whether it's cash money or it's a bowl to walk around to gather money from people as they donate, as they give money, all of those things are resources. So our resources, the ones that we have, the ones that flow into our lives and flow out, the abundance, is, with the tree, is life-giving, is is a source of our well-being. It's a source of our health. And our finances and our abundance is healthy, right? It is well. Whether we recognize it or not, if you're here watching this, you're probably in a much better place than some other people on the planet. So, but again, this isn't a comparison game. But we want to recognize that what we have is a blessing. And it gives us life and it is healthy. And then we get the next card. The next card is a beautiful card. It's the rusty cross. And in the guidebook, Rachel Pollack mentions that they very carefully chose this cross for a couple of reasons. For several reasons, actually. I'm currently only remembering 2 as being significant. One is the oldness of the cross. Yeah, it's a cross, it's a metal cross. So it's perhaps more enduring than a wood cross, but it is rusty. So it has age. It's not been taken care of even. It's not been kept up. It's rusty. It's been weathered. It has gone through weather events, you might even say. Also, you notice that the ends of the cross, the top, the sides, we can assume maybe even the bottom, but the sides and the top are open ends, right? They open. They're not flat, squared off ends. They're not crenellated ends. They're open, like an open mouth of a bird. And we see a bird there too, right? So there's an openness to this particular cross. I'm sorry, it's not a bird, it's a moth. So the ends of the cross are open like birds, but there is a moth there on the cross. What is a cross? Okay, a cross is a device used in especially ancient times, but probably still used today in some places, as a torture device. A means of torturing and killing people. And the cross is also a symbol of Christianity, because the human deity of Jesus Christ was placed on the cross and died and resurrected. Not was resurrected, died and resurrected, came back to life and eventually ascended into the non-physical. So the cross is something both of torture, but also something of liberation. It's a sign of liberation from the material realm. But also of torture. So there's that binary, it's not even binary, it's probably multifaceted. There's a multifaceted symbolic construct around the idea of the cross. And when we think of the cross in Lenormand, yeah, it can be the idea of burden. Remembering that this deck was created in a Christian context. It was originally created in a fairly Protestant context, and then moved over into a Roman Catholic context in France, right? But still, both of them, the tradition begins deeply rooted in the Christian traditions, right? So we have the idea of burden. Yeah, Christ carried the cross to the place where he died. He was made to carry the cross. We have the idea of fate and destiny. Yeah, it was Christ's and Jesus's destiny and fate to die on the cross. But we also have the idea of spirituality. Yes, there's a spiritual quality to the cross that is possible. It's a symbol of our spiritual lives, of spiritual meaning. So there, on one level, we could get the idea that maintaining the health of our finances, remember fish and tree, can be burdensome. But we can also flip it on its head, and we can realize that we have the possibility of our finances and the health of our finances giving us the space for our spiritual growth. Yeah? So if we've got our finances and our health and the health of our finances in order, we have the space to grow spiritually. Which reminds us of that moth, which is a symbol of soul for us, for many of us, the soul. and the regeneration of the moth, or the moths, just like butterflies, go into a cocoon and they dissolve themselves. They sacrifice their prepubescent form, their infant form, for their new adult form, right? And then they emerge, they resurrect from the cocoon, from the tomb, like Christ did. So we have that idea of resurrection, of also of soul. Now, one thing that's interesting is that in Lenormand, the cross can be read directionally. What does that mean? It means that things on the top are lifted up, are raised up. Things on the bottom are oppressed. Things on the left-hand side, they are stopped. It's like this becomes a period in a sentence, end of sentence. Things on the things on the right are enforced. They're strengthened. The thing that was on the left was our abundance, our health, our healthy abundance. The thing on the right that is enforced, so there's like this break, there's this end of our feeling of flow, of abundance, of health. And the next thing that's being enforced, that's being strengthened, is the mice. What does that mean? What are the mice? Think traditionally not of mice as pets, but mice out in the wild. They will come to your home and they will eat away at your resources, right? Your food, your books, maybe even your money, paper money, yeah? Mice come in and they feed on our abundance, on our resources. And if it's just one mice, if it's just one mouse, it's an annoyance. Yeah, we want to get rid of it somehow. If best possible scenario, we scare it away so it goes to find something else, in my opinion. For some people, the best case scenario is we kill it. Not for me. I would just rather it not be in my house and it finds its merry little way to another place to find food. Yeah? That's how I would take it. But now, it's not always just one mice. Mice can travel in packs, in hordes, or whatever we call them. Groups. So, what is the mice? The mice is the eating away and the dirtying, because mice, just like all creatures, don't just eat. They also excrete, they poop, they crap. Yeah, so it's the eating away and dirtying of things. It's the losing of things. It's the undermining of position even. It could be worries or problems, things that eat away at our well-being, eat away at our sense of calm, at our sense of stability. It could be theft, but for me, theft would be the fox card, the negative side of the fox card, more than the mice. So for me, theft would be over there. Here, worries, problems. Although worries, I would more often associate with the birds, which are like tweet, 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 yeah? Those little tweety worries instead of the eating. So you might think of the worries of negative thoughts, anxiety being the birds, but this being the worries and problems of eating away at us, eating away at our sanity, eating away at our sense of calm and well-being. So the mice, eating away. Now the mice can also be read directionally. And in this deck, there are so many mice and they're pointing in so many directions, we would generally choose the largest mouse or the mouse in front. So I think this mouse who's reading the book, interestingly, the mouse reading the book is our mouse that gives us direction. So we look at where the mouth is pointing. Where the mouth is pointing, that's what's being eaten away. Where its butt is pointing, that's what is being dirtied or sullied. Yeah? So its butt is pointing towards the left, and its mouth is pointing towards the right. So it is shitting on the cross, the tree, and the fish. Because I think those are all pointing in the same direction. They encompass one part of the spread. And the mice card is the center of the spread. So the mice card is dirtying our feelings of abundance and our sense of our healthy abundance and our sense of perhaps even spirituality and our spiritual growth. So there's something that's dirtying that and eating away at what's going to be coming next. Yeah? So this card in the center shows us that things might be eating away at us right now, as we travel from our abundance to ourselves. And the next card is what? Another negative card, negative neutral card, the whip. Here we have the cat of nine tails. Cat of nine tails and whips, they are used to get animals to move. They're used as fighting tools in movies, think Indiana Jones. They're used as ways of torturing and even killing other people. Yeah, think Jesus Christ, if you're a Christian, being whipped 40 times before being sent to die on the cross. So we use the whip to torture and to kill people slowly. But we also use it, again, to get animals to do what we want them to do. We use it to make sound. We can even use it to grab things. Now, a cat of nine tails, we can't really use this for anything, I think, except for torture and as a weapon, right? But still, we're going to read this card as we would read a normal whip. And so what is that? Whip. It can be repetitive actions, routines. In some decks, the whip is also called the broom card or the rod card. Yeah? So we get the idea of doing things over and over and over and over again. Yeah? So it could be routines. It could be a power struggle. It could be arguments. It could be a tongue lashing. Yeah, we lash with a whip, but we also lash with our words, a tongue lashing. It could be violent communication with pressure, to get people to do things that you want. I told you to do this. You have to do this. Yeah? For some people, it's exercise and dance. I don't see that, personally. I mean, I could see exercise maybe, but I don't think we're going there. Because we have the Jack of Clubs, it could be a lawyer or a student, somebody who speaks regardless of consequences even. Yeah, they don't care what other people think. They're just going to say their minds, whether it hurts people's feelings or not, or gets people angry or not, or is more detrimental than positive. They just speak. Could be that kind of person. It could be sexual. For some people, this is a sexual card, and I'm not just talking sadomasochism. Yeah, it's the repetitive action of intercourse, right? That is also partially included in this whip card. So it could be sexual attraction. For Rachel Pollack and Robert M. Place, this is also a card that could point to slavery. Now we think of how people who own slaves or owned slaves as well would punish and coerce people that were owned. Yeah, this is a tool to get people to do what you want them to do and to punish them for not doing what you want them to do. Right? So there's slavery attached to this card according to Rachel Pollack and Robert M. Place. It's also our passions, our anger, there's also a religious component. Maybe you know this, maybe you do not. But and I only really know the Christian context. I don't know Muslim, I don't know Judaic, or even if there's something like this in the Buddhist or Hindu traditions. But in the Christian and most profoundly in the Roman Catholic tradition, there were ascetic monks who would do things, and actually there had been ascetic monks up to the early 20th century who would do things like whip themselves to do two things. One, punish themselves for their sins. Two, you know how runners say they get a runner's high? Someone who whips themselves actually does stimulate endorphins, and they can get a sense of ecstasy. And I'm not talking ecstasy, the drug that we imbibe, or ecstasy as in sexual ecstasy, but actually it is a little related to sexual ecstasy. It's probably a similar hormone. There's a point where you reach an ecstatic sense of even connection with the entire universe, a divine ecstasy that can come from, for some people, with self-flagellation, whipping yourself. So that could be part of this card as well. That beating yourself, it could be beating yourself up, but it could be for religious purposes. Now, remember, the mice are eating away at this card. And what we see here, wonderful in the cat of nine tails. So, are the mice eating away at our self-flagellation or at our anger? Are they eating away at our sexuality? Maybe. Are they eating away at our ability to argue? Maybe, but I don't think so. What I feel from the flow of this spread is the mice are eating away at our routines, at our ability to take care of stuff, of keeping things under control, of getting our cattle to move in the direction we want them to move in, and of keeping our routines, of our repetitive actions that have allowed us to amass whatever resources we've had. And maybe even the routine of meditation could be indicated in this card too. And maybe the mice, our anxieties, are eating away at that as well. And so what do we get? So what do we get next? We get the letter card, which is a little bit challenging, right? What is a letter? A letter is a message from one person to another, whereas a book would be a message from one person to a broader readership. A letter is usually from one person to another. It transfers information, but it transfers it more slowly than, for example, the writer who rides in and tells us the news. The letter takes time to get from one place to another. Yes? The letter. So it's messages. But they're written messages. So they could be text messages on our phones or other devices. They could be, the letter could also indicate contracts, other written documents that are different from books, contracts, agreements, to-do lists. So, the whip. Remember, we have that idea of routine. The mice are eating away at our routine. And maybe this card is suggesting that we engage in some writing. And I've mentioned this here before. Remember, the question is, how can we live our lives more intentionally, not less intentionally, more intentionally in the coming week? We want to notice where our routines are being eaten away, where our feeling of health and the well-being of our resources and abundance is being shat upon, is being dirtied and sullied. And maybe this card is telling us what will help us is to do some writing. Not to write a book, although you do you, boo, yeah? If you want to write a book, write a book. But do some writing. To whom? Probably to ourselves. For a couple of reasons. One, the next card is the man card, which for me is my significator card in this deck. And since I'm reading for all of us through me, the man is our significator, right? So maybe we want to write for ourselves, aka also known as journaling. Maybe we want to journal. Maybe we want to write how and we are feeling and the experiences we're having and where we feel like our anxieties or things are nibbling away at our stability and our sense of well-being and our sense of abundance and our gratefulness for our gratitude for our resources. Yes? We might also get a letter. I mean, this deck is also here to help divine things, experiences for us in the future. So we could get a letter. We could get text messages that will perhaps lead us in the direction we want to go in. Because the next card is the direction we want to go in. So if there are letters, if there's written communication that comes for us, yay. That could help us. It could help us by pointing us in the right direction, or it could help us by showing us where the problem is. Yes? But I think this card is asking us to do some writing, to write a letter to ourselves. And it could be letter format, but I'm thinking journal might be even better. Yeah? Do some journaling. Keep your journaling practice up. Don't let the mice eat away at our journaling practice if you already have one, or start one. Yeah? And the next card is the man. Hello, man, our significator. And again, this man is a significator for us in this spread because I'm reading through me for us. That makes sense, yes? So whether you are in a male body, in a female body, in a trans body, in a cis body, in an intersex body, it does not matter. We are all this card. You notice that in this deck, the man is holding a cane, and that cane has the symbol of, or is shaped a little bit like the jackal, maybe, of Anubis. So there we've got this Egyptian, also kind of Thoth, Harris Crowley Thoth deck, wand-like tool here being held by the man. So we got a little bit of power here. I think this spread is asking us how we get from our abundance to ourselves. Remember, because that's the purpose of the spread, is how to get from point A to point B. How do we get from our feeling of gratitude and abundance to our sense of fullness of self? And apparently, we're going to have to go through some troubled times to get there. We're going to need to recognize where we are allowing ourselves to be anxious and worry, what is eating away at our abundance and our spirituality, and maybe we have the possibility, potential for being argumentative, but our routines might be broken, and that's problematic. I think we want to keep routines now. And to be able to do that, maybe one routine we want to secure for ourselves is journaling. So that we rediscover who we are here in the world. Okay? So, we're going to read this spread one other way. We're going to read with mirrors. And I'll explain what I mean by mirrors after, well, no, I should explain it to you now, just in case you never seen how I read this spread. So we're going to read with mirrors, which means that we have a central card, which was the mice, and the two cards flanking the mice, we think of them as reflections of, as mirrors of those, of each other. So we have those two cards, and then we have the two cards next to those, they mirror each other, and then the two end cards, which were the fish and the man, they mirror each other. So I will show you the spread so you get a refresher of what it looked like, and you can pick out those mirrors on your own, and we will read those mirrors together. Are you all ready, friends? Here we go. Here is the spread once more. Friends, mirrors, yeah? Remember, the central card of this spread is the mice. So there's an idea of eating away here, yeah? The first two cards which mirror each other were what? The whip and the cross. Whip and the cross. Now remember, when we read these cards together, we can read them differently than we did when we read them in a line, right? These two cards together, I think, point towards both the burden of repetitive eating away. Remember, the center is the eating away part, right? The repetitive eating away is burdensome for us. But I think we have a spiritual escape here. An escape if we can transform these into spiritual passions. Passion of the whip, the spiritual meaning of the cross. If we can transform this time into a spiritual passion, it will be helpful for us. Does that make sense? Yeah? If we can rekindle our passion for our spirituality, for our spiritual connection, we will benefit. The next two cards are the tree and the letter. And interestingly, when we think of letters, we usually think of things written on paper, and paper comes from trees in the modern world. So, I think here our writing, our journaling, will bring health, will bring our feeling of connection with our traditions of the tree, our rootedness, our groundedness with the tree, will come from or be enhanced by our writing practice. Yeah? And then the next two mirrors are the guy and the fish, right? The man and the fish. Yes. Unfortunately, they are not facing each other right now. We want to get them to face each other. We want them to feel connected. And so that practice of writing perhaps and grounding ourselves will help us to integrate our sense of fullness of self with our feeling of abundance and well-being, and that we have the resources that we need, which will have the potential, very strong potential, of being both eaten away and feeling unstable in this coming week. Yeah? Now, remember how I mentioned that the snake was not in this spread? I forgot and just remembered that the snake is in this spread, but it's not, the card is not here on the table. What do I mean? Another way I read spreads to get an overall message, yeah, is to look at the playing cards. Not for suits, but for their number. And we start off at the left-hand side with the king, which is 13. And we add 7, right? 7. That gives us 20. We add the 6 for the cross, which gives us 26. Yes? Then the mice is 7, which gives us 33. The jack from the whip gives us 44, right? Jack is 11, 44. The 7 from the letter gives us 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. And then the ace from the man gives us 52. Now there are, which is cool, because if we did have a 52 pack of playing cards, it would be the last card in the deck. We don't. So we have to reduce that 5 and the 2. 5 and 2 gives us 7. What is 7? The 7 is the, have you already remembered? It's the snake. Yeah, it's the snake. It's now the snake. What is a snake? The snake is, think Garden of Eden again. Yeah, the snake was the one who is the father of lies. The snake is false. The snake can be a betrayer. The snake can be deception. Not trickster like the fox, but deception. The snake can be the other woman in a relationship, unfortunately, because the snake is associated with the queen of clubs. And so that idea of the other woman is associated with that card. But I don't think those are important. Seduction might be possible. But even more traditionally, in non-Christian contexts, the snake is a creature of knowledge. Right? Well, the snake was on the tree of knowledge of right and wrong in the Garden of Eden too, so there's that. But the snake is a knowledgeable one. It's intelligence. It's also transformation and rebirth, because when we think of snakes, we remember that they shed their skin. Yeah, they are reborn. They transform into their new selves. So I think that dichotomy is at play in this spread. We have the falsity and the lies that are perhaps eating away through the mice at our sense of well-being. But this is a spread of transformation and rebirth through that process of being eaten away, and the whipping, the whipping of the whip and the burden of the cross. We transform through those to become the fullness of self. So this spread is also a transformational spread. From one good thing to perhaps a fuller thing, the fullness of self. From one good thing, the fish and the tree, we transform into the fullness of selfhood. That's not saying that the tree and the fish and the abundance and the well-being are not good things, and that we want to get rid of them by any means. We want to bring those with us into the fullness of our transformation. Yeah? So what do we see here? We see this idea of transformation. Transformation perhaps within our feeling of abundance. A transformation of self that is going to perhaps be a rocky road. And I'm not talking about the ice cream. But it's going to lead us through some difficult patches, and we have that knowledge that we have a tool. We have a tool to help us through, to find the fullness of self. And when we have that sense of fullness of self, we know that we are abundant. We know that we have resources available to us. We know that we have our well-being, our health, that we are grounded. The sense of self, The journey, and that might be the title of this video, the journey towards our sense of self in this coming week is profound. And it does not require our loss of resources, but a transformation through some difficult times to a rediscovery of who we really are. And when we know who we really are, we know our power. We know that we can live life intentionally. We know that we are the intentional livers of our lives, and that powerful current of intention is what brings us to receive more abundance, more resources, more health, more groundedness. And there's an expansion, yes, but there's also an allowing of the things that we receive to flow past us when we no longer need them. Some resources, they flow into our lives, and they're there for a season and a reason, as they say, and then they leave our experience. And that's wonderful, that's beautiful. We don't want to be weighed down by having to carry everything that we have accumulated through our lives to our graves, right? We want to let stuff go. We really want to let stuff go and know, living our intentional lives, that more is on its way and more is here, present in our lives than perhaps we are often allowing ourselves to recognize. But we transform into the fullness of ourselves as the intentional and open receivers of the abundance of the universe. That is a powerful thing if we allow ourselves to move through the journey of this spread. Does that make sense? Is that understandable? I think this is both a material and a spiritual journey that we're on in this week. I think we have both layers of this spread. And we do want to keep to our routines. That will be helpful for us, I believe. Even though our anxieties might be eating away at our feeling like, I'm too bummed out to go to the gym. I don't want to clean the house today. I don't want to cook today. I don't want to, and I'm not saying we want to force ourselves, yeah? We want to listen to our bodies and our minds and allow ourselves time and space for self-healing. But we also want to be conscious of not letting ourselves destroy all of our routines, right? And we want to devote a little bit of time to either a new or continued routine of, I think, journaling to help with our self-discovery and our transformation. So friends, here we are. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And in just a moment, my QR code and the web address for my online tarot shop will be appearing right before your eyes. Go check those out. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.